Hello, welcome to KiwaniTalk. We're a public information program put together by people from the Dearborn Kiwanis Club with help from students and faculty at Dearborn High at the fabulous facilities of WDHS, Dearborn High School, my alma mater. My name is Gary Gardner, and I'm very proud to have a fellow Dearborn High graduate, not just a fellow Dearborn High graduate, but a fellow Michigan State graduate to talk about Rotary. It's a competing club. We let them come in here anyway. That's fine. We have Jim Thorpe from the Dearborn Rotary Club. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You know, we're kidding a little bit about competing clubs because the idea for the public service and the giving back to the community is part of it. But you have been giving back to Rotary for a while, but you weren't always in Rotary. Where'd you grow up and where'd you go to school? I gave away part of it already.
I went to Dearborn High School. I was born and raised here in Dearborn. So I went to Dearborn High School before going on to Michigan State and then settling back in Dearborn with my family.
Okay. And when you were at Michigan State, what did you study up there?
General business.
General business. Okay. So I was a telecommunications major. Look where it got me now.
Okay.
Here on KiwaniTalk, the longest running, by the way, public access cable television show in the entire world. So
nice.
We are. So you grew up in Dearborn, and what kind of work do you do?
I'm a financial advisor with Ameriprise Financial.
Okay. And what took you into that area from the general business, and how did you get into that?
My background in college is I'd been in sales positions. So when it came time to begin interviewing, it was a question of what type of sales I'd want to be in. And I always had an interest in financial services. And I figured financial services was something that I'd be able to use later in life versus being a copier salesperson. I'm never going to buy a copier for myself, but I wasn't going to have to figure out how to retire.
Right. Good choice, because copiers have kind of gone away too.
Right.
So that's a good thing. But at some point, the idea of public service was planted in you, and you think you talked about that. It started way at a young age before you got into Rotary.
Yeah, when I was a young child, my grandfather was very involved with the Kiwanis Club here on Outer Drive. So I have very clear memories of helping out with the chicken barbecue many different years. So I had seen what service looked like within the community. Same with my grandmother. My whole family was involved. In fact, he used to do the blood pressure screenings with the Kiwanis Club down at homecoming. I would spend the whole weekend there because my mom was a registered nurse. So I had learned about service, and then once, a few years after my kids were born, I decided it was time for me to get involved with one of the service clubs, and that's what led me to Rotary.
So the fact that your grandfather was in Kiwanis, you betrayed your grandfather and went over to Rotary?
It was not the easiest conversation to tell him that I decided to join a Rotary Club over the Kiwanis Club.
Okay. So what exactly is Rotary? What does that little cog wheel stand for, and where does that come from?
Our overall theme is service above self. We want to be able to serve others and do it with an altruistic fashion, using our skills, our professional knowledge for ways that we can help around the world.
And around the world, and I've traveled a little bit around the world, and I've seen Rotary clubs, pretty much they're ubiquitous wherever you go. Everywhere
you go, just about every country on the planet, there is a Rotary Club, at least one in the country.
And so you talked about this idea of service, and what kind of service did you have in your mind before you got into Rotary, even though you saw some of the stuff from Kiwanis with your grandfather? What did you have in mind when you joined Rotary, and how has that changed, or has it changed at all since you've been involved?
Well, I was familiar with Rotary's involvement with polio eradication before joining. Rotary's been working on it for roughly 30 years, and we're getting very close to having polio eradicated globally. So that's been one of the big pushes. Here in Dearborn, we gave out about $77,000 to Dearborn students last year, graduating seniors, to continue their collegiate careers. And over the last 15, 20 years, we've given over $1 million. So we do a lot, whether it's with scholarships and other projects around the town.
So if someone was interested in joining Rotary and they thought, I like to do this, where does the Dearborn Rotary Club meet?
Currently, we're meeting in the main floor of the Bryant Branch Library.
So for those of you who are not familiar with Dearborn, as intimately as you and I may be, Bryant Branch Library is on Michigan Avenue.
At the corner of Mason.
at corner of Mason. Now, those of us who are not familiar with Mason, where that is, it's between Outer Drive and Oakwood.
Yes.
And on a bigger scale, for those where I go to 43 different cities, between Telegraph and Southfield.
Yes.
On Michigan Avenue.
Yeah.
And how often does the Rotary of Dearborn meet?
We meet bi-weekly Thursdays at noon. More information can be found at dearbornrotary.org.
Okay, so you do have the website, and that's a good thing. And describe what happens at a typical meeting. Because we have our meetings that we have a little bit later in the day. We can have some conviviality and some adult beverages and a meal. What do you guys do at your lunchtime?
So we've gone through some transitions lately. We used to do more of a lunch theme, and sometimes we'll have lunches, and sometimes we'll just get more down to the business. So we'll get together, we'll greet any guests that are there that day. We'll usually listen to a presentation, we'll share news of the club and the club members, and then talk about our upcoming events, whether it's regular meetings or special events like one we've got coming up in March.
And we're going to talk about that special meeting in March in a little bit. And so at a typical meeting, how many members would show up?
Usually you'll be somewhere between 20 and 30 members at a meeting if it's just a standard meeting. And at the special meetings, we'll usually get a little higher turnout.
So obviously one of the things that fuels the ability to give away the scholarship money, and we'll come back to the scholarship too, because that's a pretty spectacular amount of money to give away every year. Where does Rotary, at Kiwanis, of course, we get our Dearborn Kiwanis Club gets our money from peanut sales, #1 peanut sale club in the world. Where does the Dearborn Rotary, how do you guys raise your funds?
We've been blessed to have a few members, past members, that left us money in their estates. So we've been able to build a sizable endowment that we use that funds a fair amount of the scholarships that we give. However, we also still do a golf outing that supports one of them. In the past, we had done a big fundraiser with Wayne County at the end of the Wayne County Light Festival, where we would do something called Santa Snaps. Due to COVID, that hasn't been going on the last couple of years. So we're still looking for additional fundraisers now.
And how much does that fundraising distract from the giving out the money, or how do you make that distinction?
Many hands make light work. Having a lot of people involved makes all this much easier. So we'll usually view it as that the fundraisers, while somewhat of an obligation, we try to make sure that they're fun things that we enjoy to do, so it doesn't feel like work.
And when you do the golf outing, and we can talk about that, you're still doing the golf outings.
Mm-hmm.
When does that go on, and where do you have it typically?
The last few years have been at the Dearborn Country Club, usually the Monday after homecoming. Okay. So that's usually the first weekend of August, so the Monday after that, when people are recovering from homecoming, that's when we have our golf outing.
Right. And do you have anything set up at homecoming, like the fire department has the corn on the cob and the beer tents? What does Rotary have at the homecoming?
Traditionally, what we did was a fishing derby for youth. So we would work with Eppinger, which is a local manufacturer of fishing lures.
World famous
Yes.
Lure manufacturer,
Yes.
fishing equipment
They
manufacturer.
will usually donate to us lures, fishing poles, and everything for the day. And then we will have kids go down to the retention pond and see who's able to pull in the most fish and the biggest fish.
Okay. So again, let's explain, because Dearborn has a lot of spectacular things, and one of them traditionally has been the homecoming at Ford Field. This year they had a different location for it. And Ford Field is located just north of Michigan Avenue by Brady Street, between Cherry Hill. And there are many, many, many thousands of people that come to that event. And it has been traditionally a big event. And so the fishing derby, I've heard of it. I've never been. I'm too old, I guess, to try to fight off with the kids. What kind of fish do they pull out of the Rouge River there?
One thing all the people in my club know is that I am not a fisherman.
Okay.
So I don't know that I can even tell you. I think I heard bluegill.
Okay.
Other than that, they're all fish to me.
It's okay. It's a pretty fishy story that you got going there. So you have the fishing, the golf outing, the fishing derby, and that is that a fundraiser, or is that just a give back type of thing?
It's more of a give back.
Okay. And the scholarship that you have, and that is you said, and I heard $70-something thousand.
$77,000 was given last year by our club, which was dwarfed all the other Rotary clubs in our area. We didn't know how much the difference really was until we saw some numbers earlier this year.
And how many students do you assist with their college tuition with that money?
It's usually somewhere between 25 and 30 students.
So we're talking some substantial money per student.
Yes.
What kind of need or basis do the students make their applications for the assistance from Dearborn Rotary for the scholarships for college?
There are probably 6 or 7 different scholarships. Some of them are need-based, some of them are based on academics.
And is there a committee that goes through and reviews the applications?
Each of the scholarships has its own committee that reviews all the applications.
And so by the time this show comes on the air, we may or may not be, when is the cutoff date for 2023?
I do not know, but what I do know is that it will be in May when we are going to hold our scholarship event. I believe the date has been locked in, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
So if someone's watching this and they've got a senior in high school, maybe too late for you, but if you got anybody else, how would a student or family apply for their student for the Dearborn Rotary Scholarship Fund?
Talk to your high school counselor. They should have information on the scholarships, not only for Rotary, but for all the different scholarships that the students would have available.
And I'm sure that the students, when they get the news, they're pretty happy, but is there a ceremony where they actually come in and they get awarded their scholarships?
We do a dinner over on the Henry Ford College campus where we will bring all the awardees in together and then they will get more information about their scholarships.
When you have that many kids, 20 to 30 kids, and $77,000, divide that up, that gives, what schools, if you know, every college in Michigan or more local schools, or where do they go?
Most of them are staying within Michigan. There's a large portion of the students that will usually be looking at U of M Ann Arbor, U of M Dearborn, Henry Ford College, Wayne State, some Michigan State, but mostly close geographically to our area.
Right. So it was disappointing, based on our association with Michigan State, that Michigan State was the last in the litany that you put out there. But and it makes sense though, if a student has, and it's sensible to, rather than especially for the first year or two of college, to use the wonderful educational opportunities at U of M Dearborn, at Henry Ford College in Dearborn and other schools, avoid that cost of the housing, miss out on some of the college experience, but if you're in it for the education, what's your thinking on that?
That's what I did. I did a year at U of M Dearborn before transferring out to Michigan State. So I had an idea academically what was going to be expected before I got dumped into the big college experience, and that was invaluable.
What kind of skills did you learn from being closer to home, besides commuting back and forth to the school?
When you're in college, you're paying for it, and it's not that they don't care, but it's a whole different animal. It's all on your shoulders. You have to be able to manage your own time and take care of things. Reach out to the instructors and the support staff when you need help, and you don't necessarily have your parents nudging you to do it like you would have in high school.
Makes a big difference. Well, we're going to continue our discussion about Dearborn Rotary Club with Jim Thorpe, and we're going to talk about how long the Dearborn Rotary's been along. It's pretty impressive, in addition to the money they give away. Don't go away. We got some words about Kiwanis. We'll come back talking with Jim Thorpe about the oldest service club in the city of Dearborn, the Dearborn Rotary Club. Don't go away.
Who is a kid? Well, that's a kid. And another. Look, a gaggle of them. Or is it a herd? Litter? Pride. But what about her? Tell her she's not a kid. Or him. So how do we tell who is a kid? Height? Age, maybe. But some of us have to grow up faster than others. A kid. A kid. A kid wants to make the world better. And one day, he just might. Is a kid fearless? Vulnerable? Strong? Nervous? Yes. 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 Kiwanis is 600,000 kids at heart doing all the little and big things it takes to help children around the world. Because kids need Kiwanis. All of them.
Committed to building community through global awareness and understanding, we challenge teens globally to step outside of their comfort zone and expand their worldview by entering a new one. Hosted by supportive families, young people are given the opportunities to explore new locations, immerse themselves in a different way of life, and create impact in regions far from home, all while forming lasting relationships. And making countless memories. Returning home with endless stories to share. Because a moment can be the experience that lasts a lifetime. Rotary Youth Exchange. Find out more at rotary.org/youth exchange.
Welcome back to KiwaniTalk. My name is Gary Gardner, your host for this episode of the longest running cable access television program in the world. We're called KiwaniTalk. We're talking with a competing service organization, but it's all in the spirit of good competition because we all have the same goals to help our community and provide service to the public. We have Jim Thorpe from the Dearborn Rotary Club talking about it, and I alluded to this before the break. How long has the Dearborn Rotary been around?
We are celebrating our 100th year this year.
That would make 1923.
Yes.
See that? I had 4 years of college and 3 years of law school. Did not go to waste. I can do that math just like that. And it's a pretty proud, a major achievement in these days to have longevity like that, especially for a service club.
It is.
Because the idea of a service club, I think, ebbs and wanes and flows and things like that. But what is your experience of, especially with getting over COVID times now? How is your club doing after the COVID is kind of going away?
Well, everyone had to make a switch from in-person meetings to having to go to virtual meetings. And people were very happy to still be able to see each other. We all were probably getting a little claustrophobic when COVID started and you're only having your family to communicate with. So having a screen full of other faces that you've done projects with was very refreshing. What we've found through the years is that people still want to serve, they're just doing it in different ways now.
And that's the idea. And besides, we talked about the scholarship program. There's other things that the Dearborn Rotary Club has been involved with. What are just one or two of the other things that you've been involved with over the years?
We've worked with the Dearborn firefighters with the burn drive fundraisers that they do and help supporting them with their firehouse and the smokehouse. We have worked with the Pennerton Center for the Blind. We have worked with the Henry Ford College on different projects, the Dearborn Public Schools and their Education Foundation. So there's different things that we have touched. A couple of years ago we did a big tree planting where we planted trees at Salina Elementary, at the Henry Ford Greenfield Village, and also down by the Ford Rouge plant where they were creating new parks.
And one of the things you said in passing, and I think we should have a little more attention brought up, is the Dearborn, the smokehouse the firefighters have. And your kids, my kids went through that. What your kids, tell our viewers what that smokehouse is and how that's kind of an important thing for kids to know.
If you've ever driven down Outer Drive right by Dearborn High in the firehouse, you've seen what looks like a house that they had built years and years ago. And in their ventilation system, they have a smoke system worked right in so that kids, every child, I forget what grade they're in now, will go through and get a free trip to that one and learn what to do if there's a fire in their home, how to crawl out of the building and check for heat on doors and things like that.
And that is the thing, and they crawl, you go low and you feel the doors before you go. My kids, I remember that when they came back, they were, wow, Dad, this is really, you know, don't ever want it to have to happen, but it's good. It's good for
My
them.
kids were asking when I had last changed the smoke the smoke detector batteries, and what our plan was if something had happened.
Right. So the Dearborn Rotary has a big event coming up to celebrate the scholarship. Or what's the big event coming up? When is it? What's it for?
It's going to be on March 18th. The funds that are raised from it are going to go towards the Henry Ford Centennial Library's auditorium. We're going to be doing a major renovation of that to make it more ADA accessible and to modernize it.
Okay, and where is the big event on March 18th going to be held?
It is going to be at the Ford Community and Performing Arts Center. There is going to be 3 different levels of tickets that people are able to purchase currently. One includes a strolling dinner that'll be held across the hall at the Lincoln Ballroom. And then there are seats that are available just for the concert portion. The concert is going to be 2 different acts. We are going to have Detroit artist Thornetta Davis with her blues group. And we're also going to have the Temptations review performance going on as well.
So again, we have this Dearborn sort of centric view, but we have people from 43 other cities who watch our show. Describe the Dearborn Community Performing Arts Center. Where is it and what is it and how spectacular of a facility is that?
It is located on the corner of Michigan Avenue and Greenfield. It has a 1,200 seat theater, a large room across from it that those that grew up in Dearborn used to use it as roller skating rink, or it was used for many different expos, weddings nowadays. There's also a full pool workout facility. So everything that a community center is meant to be, that's what they've got there.
And the actual theater portion of it, the auditorium, has world-class acoustics.
Yes.
It really, really does.
Yes.
So so you're going to have the strolling dinner, there's going to be an awards ceremony. What is the awards ceremony part, and what would people be involved with?
There's not going to be much of an awards ceremony. It'll be more just the strolling dinner.
Got it.
And when people are doing the strolling dinner, we'll have different information up that explains 100 years of service, what it's looked like, with stories from different people that have been involved with Rotary through the years, different projects that we've worked on throughout the years, and our connections to Rotary clubs around the world.
And again, we mentioned at the beginning of the show, there's Rotary clubs all over the world. What, if any, interaction have you had, or people from other clubs come to Dearborn and say, hey, I'm part of Rotary?
Well, my family has hosted Rotary Youth Exchange students, I think 6 or 7 different years. So we have had Rotary students come over to us from Brazil, Mexico, Peru, Spain, Denmark. Those are the ones I can remember off the top of my head. And this coming fall, my daughter's going to be an outbound Rotary Youth Exchange student. She's going to be heading to Brazil.
Okay, so that is something we hadn't talked about, but I had connections in Australia, and I sent all my girls to Australia for 3 months when they were in 6th or 7th grade, which my wife thought it was crazy, but it worked out to be good for them. The students who came to stay with you and your family, what was the time length that they had, and what was their experience, and have you kept in contact with them?
We've kept in contact with them, and the first student that we hosted was from Brazil. She is very happy to hear that our daughter is going to be in Brazil, and they will probably meet up at some point. So it's been great for us, Gary, that we wanted our kids to experience the world and see that we're all not that different. So having these students be involved has been great. These students are usually overseas for 10 months, and what Rotary has usually tried to do is have them live with 2 or 3 different families so they can experience what different families live like.
And when what grades were the students when they came over to stay with your family?
They've usually been considered either sophomores to seniors, and they've all attended Dearborn High.
Okay. So yeah, so when we sent our daughters overseas, we did it a little bit younger because they could remember it, but they weren't old enough to get in trouble yet. So
Right.
that was part of our thinking for that program. So your daughter is going to go to Brazil de Habla Portuguese?
We got a book a couple of days ago,
Okay.
and my wife wants to talk to me later today about a program that we'll do online. And
Okay.
we've already talked to people that have connections with Portuguese, so she can begin learning the language.
Okay. Duolingo actually is a pretty good app.
Yeah.
I've used that before. So for 100 years, the Dearborn Rotary Club has been around, and you've been part of it since, what, 1998, I think you said?
2008.
2008. Where do you see the Dearborn Rotary Club going? What's the vision that the members that you associate with, what do they say for the next year, 5 year, 10, next 100 years? What would you like to try to do?
Well, we talked earlier about the scholarships and that we do an awful lot with the schools, both the P-12 and with the community college. So we've got a lot of programs that are focused on youth. So I would expect that we'll continue to do a lot with youth and things that we can be doing to help students.
And you meet at the Bryant Branch Library on Thursday?
Thursdays.
At
And
12:30, you said?
12.
12 o'clock.
And your best bet is to go to the dearbornrotary.org website because it's every second Thursday. So today happened to be the day.
Right.
So once you find when one of them is, just every 2 weeks later, we'll be there.
And amazingly, by the miracle of modern technology, what's the name of that site again? I can't see it backwards here.
dearbornrotary.org.
It's right there, right in front of us. It's
Great.
amazing how that works out. Well, it's again, the whole idea of community service. It's not just giving money for scholarships. It's doing a whole bunch of different things like the Parenting Center, Dearborn Firefighters Burn Drive, and you mentioned during the break you give money for stuffed animals for kids who are involved in domestic violence situations, or the firefighters whose kids are burned out of their homes.
Right.
What? You happy you joined?
Yeah, I've gained so much. I find that the more you give, the more you gain.
And that is, again, truer words have never been spoken. So I want to thank you, Jim Thorpe from Dearborn Rotary, for coming and being part of our program, telling us about the upcoming thing on the big date. How did somebody get tickets for the March 18th festival?
So they can go to dearbornrotary.org. There will be information about the event on the website. They can also go directly online or to the box office at the Ford Community Performing Arts Center, and they can get tickets there for the March 18th event.
Very good. I want to thank you for coming to the show. It's been a pleasure talking to you,
Thanks,
getting to know
Gary.
more about the competing club. I want to thank you for tuning in to KiwaniTalk. We'll see you again next time. I'm Gary Gardner. Bye-bye.